When I was originally going to make this video, I wanted to talk about how we as a society are just not coming together. How the left has now embraced this new fuck around and find out movement where they are basically reveling in seeing that Trump supporters are now seeing the consequences of voting for Trump. Things like people potentially losing their farms, things like people potentially losing their snaps, things like people potentially losing their health care. They are reveling in the fact that now they're realizing that this is the stuff that they've been going after all along. And well, on the right, they are happy that there are ICE agents barging into people's houses, they're breaking up families, and they are happy that a billionaire is going in and cutting up all of these funds and freezing people's assets and leaving people stranded across the country, and they're reveling in it solely because that it's quote-unquote creating government efficiency. I wanted to talk about how both sides need to come together because at the end of the day, it is the working class versus billionaires. But honestly, I don't have the energy to convey a message like that. At least not right now. Most of the positivity that I have in me is slowly being just etched away from my soul. People talk about the spineless and worthless Democrats, but the sheep mentality that I have seen from people in the Republican Party just shows that I have no faith in them. Speaking of the Democratic Party, a new article just came out and showed that our leadership, the people who are supposed to be leading the charge against Trump and his administration and his attacks on democracy and everything, are upset with the fact that grassroots organizations are trying to call them to go to action. So while editing this video, I have discovered that they have changed the article. So I don't know if somebody made the Democrats upset or they misquoted, but I'm gonna assume the worst. Specifically, Hakeem Jeffries. This shit just makes me think that we have no future as a party. And I don't even know if I can say we, because the more I see stuff like this, the more I just am like, I can't keep registering to vote for this party. I, like many other people on the left, are so sick and tired of the Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Jerry Connolly, all of these old fucks who are just okay with just pointing the finger and being like, that's bad. You can't do that, Trump. You can't take away the rights and liberties of Americans all for the sake of getting tax cuts for billionaires. That's wrong. Meanwhile, they're lining their pockets with all of the stocks and ballooning their portfolios so that they'll be okay at the end of the day. And now don't get me wrong, I understand that the Democrats have a minority. I understand that they don't have any of the chambers of Congress, which essentially means that they are severely disadvantaged without power. But at the same time, I want to see some fight. I want to see some true emotion coming out of these people. It sounds like they don't actually care to make things better. It's why I always have a problem with people like Pete Buttigieg or any of these other quote-unquote neoliberal or moderate Democrats, because I have no problem with a Democrat not being as left of me on certain opinions or positions, but when you simultaneously want to destroy the institutions but yet defend the institutions that we have, it confuses me on whether or not you actually care about the working class. I know that there are plenty of Democrats, especially people at the grassroots level, who are fighting and who are combating back. And to them, I say thank you. But I always look at it as the people who should be fighting the most and who should be most vocal are the people at the top. And consistently, I have seen that those are the ones who are the most silent or the ones who are making the most complaints or the most excuses, whatever. And again, I know that the Democrats aren't in the best position to be fighting, but it's just so frustrating. And I have seen so many times throughout my life where the Democrats have been in the opposite position of this, and yet I have seen Republicans repeatedly stop what they're doing, impede their progress, or whatever. And so now to be in the reverse of that, and the Democrats basically throw their hands like, well, what can we do? It's just like, Well, what was happening when the Republicans were the ones who had the minority power and they still had a presence? And what message are you sending to the American people? Well, guys, I know your rights and your health insurance and anything else that you really need to essentially live is going to be taken away, but you didn't vote in November, so you should just give up and take it. These are the things that demotivate the average person from going out and voting. And now onto the Republicans. Specifically, the politicians and people in office, I have even less faith in them as people, as individuals, and especially as politicians. The party that is supposed to be for economic stability and fiscal responsibility is proposing to add $4 trillion to the trade deficit. They are proposing to raise the debt ceiling so that they don't have to worry about accommodating the cost of adding a $4 trillion trade deficit. The party that is supposed to be handling government waste will spoil $500 million worth of food, but turn a blind eye when Pete Hegseth uses emergency funds to paint his house, or when Elon gets another government contract. Isn't it crazy how they talk about the government's corrupt and how everyone in there is not for the people and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as it comes to them using government funds to help themselves, oh, they just turn a blind eye. Oh, they make excuses. Oh, it's not what you think it is. It's something that you will never understand. I'm not even going to get into whether or not it will pass because honestly, I don't know. I'm slowly losing faith in any good faith Republicans that are left because all of them are just too afraid to stand up to Trump. I hate that this country is so divided. And I know that we are supposed to come together, and I know that this is a class war, not an identity war, not a political side war. It's a class war. And I hate to give in to the doom mentality that I have and the pessimism I have in my mind. But how am I supposed to be faithful when the leaders of the party who are supposed to be fighting for change don't seem to care to do anything? They just throw their hands in the air and give up. And at the same time have no problem inflating their own stock portfolios so that they're set up and they'll be fine in this world. And then we have people on the other side who are getting their rights, their liberties, their food benefits, their medical care, whatever it is. They're getting all of these things stripped away from them slowly right before their eyes. But they just keep feeding into the lie that the people who they voted for in office actually care for them. That they are laughing in their faces when they use their tax cuts to go and have yacht parties, do tons of coke, buy a bunch of sex workers, and just live whatever crazy, gluttonous life that they want to live. Because at the end of the day, they don't care. They're rich. They don't care if it costs $400 to buy a bunch of groceries. They don't care if they don't have medical assistance. They don't care about any of that stuff because they have enough money to pay for it. I never thought that I would be in a position where my only hope for this authoritarian regime not gaining absolute power is that Elena Kagan and Chief Justice Roberts uphold Marbury versus Madison to stop the Trump administration. I have to sit here and hope that two conservative judges somehow have some sliver of ethics and some sliver of spine to stand against the threats or whatever the Trump administration throws at them. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm probably still going to vote blue in 2026 like a fucking idiot, and I'll just hope for the best. I guess the only sliver of hope is Marbury versus Madison and the special elections on April 1st, because at least there have been some blowouts and some surprise victories by Democrats in special elections. So maybe I can have some cope. Maybe they'll flip Florida's 1st and Florida's 6th. Who knows? I don't know. I guess whatever happens, I'll just have to figure it out like everyone else will.